My wife got wasted at a family party and admitted she never loved me, she only married me because I was safe and was secretly reaching out to her ex. My wife Clara and I have been married for 8 years now, and we have 2 kids together, a 6-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old son. We first met back in college through some mutual friends, and we started dating during our junior year. She was this super outgoing, bubbly person who seemed to know everyone on campus, while I was the quiet, reserved type who mostly kept to himself and focused on studying. I was deep into my engineering coursework and she was studying business, but despite our differences, something just clicked between us. In the beginning, everything felt amazing. Honestly, I thought I hit the jackpot. Clara was way out of my league, beautiful, well-liked, and confident. She could have had any guy she wanted, but for some reason, she chose me. I used to think maybe it was because I was different from the usual guys she dated. She'd mentioned a few times that her exes all kind of fit the same mold and that she wanted a change, but she never really explained what made me that change. College was good for us. We spent a lot of time together, studying, hanging out with friends, just enjoying each other's company. There were times when she'd get moody or distant, but I figured that was just part of being in a relationship. Everyone has ups and downs, right? After graduation, we both landed jobs in the same city and decided to move in together. That's when I started to notice a few things that didn't sit right with me, though I didn't know how to bring them up. One of the first things I picked up on was how she didn't seem very interested in being physical with me. I mean, we still had sex, but it felt off. Like she was just going through the motions and not really into it. I tried talking to her about it a few times, but she'd always blame it on work stress or being tired, insisting it had nothing to do with me. And I believed her, because I didn't want to admit that there might be a deeper problem. Another thing that stood out was how tense she'd get anytime we bumped into people from college, especially guys she used to know. I remember one time we were at a restaurant and she spotted someone she recognized. Immediately, she got super fidgety and looked like she wanted to get out of there. When I asked who it was, she brushed it off, said it was nobody important, and changed the subject. But I could tell she wasn't being honest. The third thing that started to wear on me was how obsessed she was with pleasing her parents. They're very old school, and they've got these rigid ideas about what makes a good husband and father. Clara was always trying to make sure I fit into that mold. She'd coach me before family dinners, telling me exactly what to say or not say, and if she thought I might mess it up, she'd get visibly anxious. At first, I thought it was kind of sweet that she wanted me to make a good impression. But now, looking back, it feels like she cared more about meeting their expectations than figuring out what we wanted as a couple. After we had lived together for about 2 years, I proposed, and she said yes. But even then, something felt off. When I gave her the ring, she smiled and said all the right things, but there wasn't that spark or excitement I had expected. And when we told our friends and family, her focus was always on the logistics, like the wedding date or guest list, not on being thrilled to marry me. The wedding planning turned out to be pretty stressful. We argued a lot, but I chalked it up to the usual pre-wedding pressure. Her parents had opinions about everything: venue, food, music, you name it, and Clara went along with all their suggestions, even when I could tell she didn't really agree with them. The wedding day itself was beautiful. Everyone said it was perfect. But I remember looking at Clara afterward and thinking she seemed more relieved that it was over than excited that we were finally husband and wife. On our honeymoon, she was more relaxed than I'd seen her in months, but there was still this emotional distance between us. It made me start wondering, was she just not that into intimacy, or was it something about me she didn't want? The first couple years of marriage were okay. We got into a routine: work, friends, family gatherings. From the outside, things looked normal. We bought a house and started talking seriously about having kids. Clara seemed excited about the idea of starting a family, and when she got pregnant with our daughter, she was over the moon. I thought maybe this would be the thing to bring us closer and help fix whatever was missing between us. Having kids did change things, but not in the way I hoped. Clara became an amazing mom, fully devoted to our daughter, and later, our son. But as her focus shifted to the kids, her attention to us, to our marriage, faded even more. She was always tired or busy, and every time I tried to carve out time for just the two of us, she had a reason to cancel or cut it short. I started to feel like I was just there to pay bills and take out the trash, not as a partner, but more like a teammate on household duty. I brought up how I felt a few times, hoping we could talk about it. But each time, she'd say that raising young kids was hard and that things would improve once they got older. She'd also accuse me of being selfish for wanting more from her when she was already exhausted from juggling everything at home. That made me feel guilty, like maybe I was asking for too much. Then, about 6 months ago, things took a turn. I noticed she was on her phone more often, constantly scrolling or texting. When I asked who she was talking to, she'd casually say it was her sister or someone from work. Around the same time, she started going out more with her friends and staying out later. And when she came home, she'd be all bubbly and energized in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. I didn't want to be that guy, the paranoid, jealous husband, so I tried not to read too much into it. But something about the whole vibe felt off. She was dressing differently, putting more effort into her hair and makeup. When I complimented her, she'd brush it off and say she just wanted to feel better about herself. 3 months ago, we got into a huge fight, honestly, over something dumb. But during that argument, she said she felt like we were nothing more than roommates raising kids together and that she wasn't happy in our marriage anymore. That floored me. Sure, I knew things weren't perfect, but I didn't realize she was that unhappy. I asked what we could do to make things better. She mentioned couples counseling, but then never followed through. Every time I brought it up after that, she'd say she was too busy or still thinking it over. Then 2 months ago, I saw her browsing apartment listings online. When I asked her about it, she said she was just curious, just seeing what's out there in our area. Clara told me she wasn't actually planning to leave, that she was just browsing apartment listings out of curiosity. She said sometimes she liked to daydream about living somewhere else and that it didn't mean anything. But I didn't buy that. We ended up fighting again, mostly about trust and how we never really talk openly anymore. Then came the night everything hit a boiling point. It was her sister's birthday party, and Clara got absolutely hammered. She's never been much of a drinker, so seeing her knock back one drink after another threw me off. I tried to get her to slow down, offered her food, nudged her to take a break, but she wasn't hearing it. She just kept laughing too loud at dumb jokes and acting like everything was perfectly fine. At one point, her sister's husband pulled me aside. He looked a little uncomfortable and asked if everything was okay at home. He said Clara had been texting his wife a lot lately, talking about how trapped she felt and how unhappy she was. That's when it really hit me. Clara had been talking to other people about our marriage, and I had no idea. I told him we were going through a rough patch and trying to work things out, but inside, I was panicking. Not just because I didn't know she'd been venting to others, but because I realized how completely disconnected we really were. Later in the evening, Clara got super emotional. She started hugging people, telling them how much she appreciated them and how lucky she was to have good people in her life. I thought she was just being a little drunk and sentimental. But then, out of nowhere, she started talking about her ex from college, Dale. She called him the love of her life, said she still thought about him all the time. I tried to gently tell her we should head home, but she ignored me. She kept going. Said Dale was the only person who ever really understood her, and that she never should have let him go. Everyone got quiet. Her sister tried to change the subject, but Clara wouldn't stop. She started crying and said she felt like she had settled, that the life she was living wasn't the one she wanted. Then, she turned to me right in front of everyone and said she had never been attracted to me. That she married me because I was safe, reliable, and the kind of guy her parents approved of. She said she hoped her feelings for me would grow, that she could learn to love me the way she loved Dale, but it never happened. She admitted she'd been trying to find Dale on social media and had messaged him a few weeks back, hoping to reconnect. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Everyone was staring, but it was like I was frozen. Somehow, I got her to the car, drove us home, and she passed out in the passenger seat. The next morning, she woke up groggy and hungover. She looked at me, confused, and asked why I seemed so upset. I told her everything she said the night before. She went pale. Then the tears started. She kept saying she didn't remember, that she was drunk and none of it meant anything. That alcohol makes people say crazy things. But I could see it on her face. She did remember. Maybe not every word, but enough. And I knew deep down she had meant at least part of it. I asked her straight up if she really tried to contact Dale. She admitted she had found his profile and sent him a message. Claimed he never responded and said it was just a weak moment, nothing serious. Then she said she loved me, wanted to fix things, and make our marriage work. But the whole thing felt fake, like she was scrambling to fix what she'd broken, not because she meant it, but because she was scared of what came next. Since then, I've been sleeping in the guest room. We barely speak except when it comes to the kids or stuff around the house. She keeps trying to bring up that night, says we should talk, but I'm just not ready. I don't even know if I want to talk. Every time I see her, I hear those words again about how she never loved me, how she settled, how she hoped something would change but it never did. And it eats at me. The worst part is how everything from the past suddenly makes more sense. All those times she pulled away or acted distant. The awkwardness when we saw old college friends. The way she always tried to make sure her parents were proud, even if it meant ignoring what she really felt. It all adds up now. I just didn't want to see it before. Now I can't stop thinking about our kids. What happens to them if this falls apart? But how do I stay married to someone who's been pretending for 8 years? It's like the entire relationship was built on a lie. I don't know how to come back from that. Clara's been trying to keep up appearances around the kids, but they're not dumb. They've noticed the changes. They keep asking why we don't sleep in the same bed or why we barely talk anymore. I'm doing my best to keep their world stable, but it's hard. Especially when I can't even stand being in the same room as her. And yeah, I can't stop thinking about Dale. I looked him up online. He seems successful. Travels a lot. Posts pictures from fancy restaurants and cool places. He seems interesting, exciting, the opposite of me. And now I wonder if she's still reaching out to him. If she's comparing us. If she's wishing she had picked him instead. So am I the __ for wanting to leave my wife after she told me, drunk or not, that she never really loved me and only married me because I was safe? Because honestly, I don't think I can ever unhear those words. Update 1. I want to thank everyone who responded to my post. Reading through the replies helped me feel a little less crazy. A lot of you said what I was already thinking, that being drunk doesn't create lies. It just lowers the filter. And yeah, that hit hard. After a few days of sitting with it all, I realized I needed answers. Real ones. So I waited until the kids were at school, sat Clara down in the living room, and told her it was time to talk. She immediately started crying, apologizing again, saying she didn't mean to hurt me. But I stopped her. I told her I needed honesty. Not another apology. I told her that if there was any chance of fixing this marriage, it had to start with the truth. That's when she finally admitted it. She said no, she never felt that spark with me, not the way she had with Dale or a few other guys she'd dated in college. She said she hoped it would grow over time, that maybe things would change. But they never did. But that connection she hoped would grow between us, it never did. She admitted she went through with marrying me partly because her parents were big fans of mine, they thought I'd be a solid husband and a reliable father. At the time, their approval meant everything to her. She told me she had convinced herself that physical chemistry didn't matter as much as being compatible and building a life with someone who felt like a good partner and friend. She tried to believe that attraction could be optional, something she could live without. What really crushed me, though, was when she said she had started resenting me over the years, not for anything I did wrong, but because I wasn't like the guys she used to date. She said they were adventurous, spontaneous, exciting, and I was stable. Predictable. Exactly the person I've always been. She admitted it wasn't fair to hold that against me, but part of her couldn't shake the feeling that she missed out on something by settling down too soon. When I brought up Dale again and asked if she had seriously tried to reconnect with him, she got defensive. Said it was just a dumb impulse, blamed it on some sort of midlife crisis. But when I pressed her harder, she finally came clean, said she'd been thinking about Dale for months before she ever messaged him. She told me she'd been fantasizing about what her life would have looked like if they'd stayed together. She admitted to sending him a message on Facebook, telling him he'd been on her mind and asking if he wanted to meet up. And then she said something that felt like a final blow. She'd been checking her inbox obsessively, hoping for a reply. And if he had replied positively, she probably would have gone to see him even though she knew it would have crossed a line. Hearing all that was brutal. Like getting punched in the gut over and over again. But at least she finally told me the truth. As painful as it was, I needed to know where I really stood. I asked her straight out, did she want to work on the marriage, or was she thinking about divorce? She said she didn't know. That she was confused. That she needed time to figure out what she really wanted. So I told her I needed time too. I packed a bag and went to stay at my brother's house for a few days, just to get space and clear my head. Clara cried and begged me not to go, but I couldn't sit in the same house with her and pretend things were okay. That week at my brother's was honestly one of the most important weeks of my life. He and his wife let me vent without judgment, and they helped me realize something I should have seen a long time ago. I deserve someone who wants to be with me. Who's actually attracted to me. Who chooses me because of love, not because I'm the safe choice approved by her parents. When I got back home, Clara and I sat down and had another serious conversation. I told her I thought we should get a divorce. She was stunned. Said she thought we could go to counseling, that she was willing to put in more effort and try to make it work. But I told her I didn't think therapy could fix the root issue, that she never really wanted me in the first place, not in the way that mattered most. She pushed back. Said attraction wasn't everything. That we had a good life and a family. That we owed it to our kids to fight for our marriage. But I told her I didn't want to stay married to someone who saw me as a fallback. A safe option. Someone she had settled for. I also told her something I truly believe: our kids deserve to grow up seeing what real love looks like. Staying in a marriage just for their sake, when the love is gone or one-sided, is only going to confuse them in the long run. The conversation got heated. She accused me of giving up. Said I wasn't willing to fight for our family. But what she didn't understand was that I had been fighting for years, I just didn't realize I was the only one in the ring. I told her it wasn't fair to expect me to keep pouring into a relationship she'd emotionally checked out of a long time ago. Now, we're in the process of figuring out the separation and eventual divorce, and it's awkward and painful. Clara swings between being angry and cold one day, to sad and apologetic the next. Some days she acts like I'm the one blowing everything up for no reason. Other days she's crying, asking for another chance. What makes it worse is that, even after all this, I still love her. Or maybe I love the version of her I thought she was. We were together for 8 years. We built a life, had 2 beautiful kids. That doesn't disappear overnight. There are moments where I wonder if I'm making a huge mistake. I've started looking for a place of my own. I'm also trying to figure out how to split custody in a way that works for everyone. Clara doesn't want me to move out. She keeps pushing for a trial separation with therapy, but I don't think dragging it out will help anyone. I think it'll just make things harder. The truth is, this whole thing just feels really sad. I feel terrible for the kids. They didn't ask for any of this. But for the first time in a long time, I have clarity. I know what I want from a relationship, and this isn't it. I want to be with someone who loves me for who I am. Not because I'm safe or stable or convenient. I know some people might think I'm giving up too soon. That I should try harder. But you can't force someone to love you. You can't force attraction. Clara made her decision 8 years ago when she chose to marry me knowing she wasn't really into me. Now I'm making mine. I'm choosing to walk away and find someone who wants to be with me. Update 2. It's been about a month since that last conversation, and I wanted to share what's happened since, because things have taken some turns I honestly didn't see coming. I ended up finding an apartment and officially moved out about 3 weeks ago. The transition has been rough. The kids are staying with Clara during the week and coming to my place on weekends. It's hard on them. My daughter keeps asking when I'm coming home, and my son started acting out at school. Tantrums. Mood swings. Stuff he never used to do. Clara and I are trying our best to co-parent, but the tension is still there every time we see each other. Sometimes she's cold, sometimes she's crying, sometimes she tries to start deep conversations about our relationship. And every time, I have to remind her that we're getting divorced, that I don't want to rehash it all over and over again. And then, about 2 weeks ago, something happened that really threw me for a loop. I was at a store not far from my new place when I saw someone I recognized. It took me a second to realize who it was. Dale. The Dale. Clara's college ex, the one she'd been trying to reach out to. He recognized me too. Came over, said hello, asked how I was doing. We ended up talking for about 20 minutes. And honestly, he was nothing like how Clara had described him. She always painted him as this wild, passionate, unpredictable guy. But in person? He was quiet, polite, kind of soft-spoken. Turns out he's an accountant for a small local firm and lives alone in a modest apartment. Dale told me he had gotten Clara's message a few months back, but he chose not to respond. He said he's been in a serious relationship for the past 3 years, and replying just didn't feel right. What surprised him most, though, was hearing from Clara at all. According to him, they hadn't really kept in touch since college, and their relationship wasn't nearly as intense or meaningful as she seemed to remember. He told me they only dated for about 6 months, and it was nothing serious. Pretty casual, really. In fact, he said he was the one who ended things because he realized they were heading in different directions in life. That whole conversation opened my eyes. It made me realize that Clara had created this fantasy version of Dale in her head. She turned him into this ideal, the guy who got away, the life she could have had. But the reality was, he was just a normal guy. Their relationship had been short, casual, and nowhere near as deep as she had convinced herself it was. I didn't tell Dale what had been going on between Clara and me. It didn't feel appropriate. But after we said goodbye, I walked back to my apartment feeling this strange mix of relief and sadness. I was alone again, and I started questioning everything. Maybe I'd made the wrong call. Maybe Clara and I could have fixed things if we tried harder. For a moment, I even thought about calling her, suggesting we go to counseling and give it one last shot. I missed the life we had. I missed having my kids under one roof. But the next weekend, Clara reminded me exactly why I had to walk away. After dropping the kids off on Sunday evening, she invited me in for coffee. At first, it felt harmless, just 2 parents chatting. But then she started talking about how much she missed having me around. She said she'd been reflecting a lot and realized how much she had taken me for granted. That she finally saw how good of a husband and father I had been. She told me she'd started seeing a therapist and was beginning to understand that a lot of her unhappiness wasn't actually about me or even our relationship. It was about her own fear of commitment. Her constant anxiety that she was missing out on something better. She said she wanted to try again. That if we were both open and honest, we could rebuild what we had. And for a second, I almost believed her. But then she said something that snapped me right back to reality. She said that even though she never felt the same kind of physical attraction to me as she had with other guys, she had learned to appreciate other qualities. That maybe, if we both worked at it, that kind of attraction could grow. And just like that, I realized she still didn't get it. She wasn't saying she'd discovered she was attracted to me. She was saying she was willing to try to become attracted to me for the sake of our family. She was willing to force something that had never been there to begin with. I told her I appreciated her honesty, but I couldn't be in a relationship where someone had to work at wanting me. I didn't want to be someone's project. I wanted to be chosen, desired, loved for who I am, not tolerated or rebranded as good enough. She got upset, said I was being idealistic, that real relationships take effort and compromise. But I told her some things shouldn't take effort. Feeling wanted shouldn't be a job someone clocks in for. We argued again. And when I left that night, I felt even more certain that walking away had been the right choice. Over the next few days, her words kept replaying in my head about attraction being something you work on over time. And all I could think was, is that what I've been settling for all these years? Crumbs? I'm only 32. I still have time to build a future I actually want. I don't want to spend the next 30 years beside someone who has to try to want me. I want to be with someone who looks at me and knows. Since then, I've been focused on building a new life. I'm getting settled into my apartment, creating routines with the kids, trying to figure out who I am outside of this marriage. I've started going back to the gym regularly, reconnected with friends I lost touch with while I was married. For the first time in years, I'm starting to feel like myself again. The divorce process is moving along. Clara and I are working with a mediator to figure out custody and finances. She's still clinging to the idea that I might come back, but I think she's finally starting to accept that this is real. That I'm not changing my mind. Her family's been calling too, trying to guilt me into giving it another shot. I've had to set boundaries and remind them that this isn't their decision to make. This is between me and Clara. My family, on the other hand, has been amazing. They've supported me every step of the way. My mom even told me that, for years, she had wondered if Clara was really the right person for me, but didn't want to interfere in my marriage. It's strange to think that other people saw what I couldn't. That maybe I was holding on to something that was never really whole to begin with. But now, at least, I'm starting over with open eyes. And I'm done settling.